Well, thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, especially speakers, singers. It's great. There's one person who would be so embarrassed by all this attention. It's been you. But I know she would thank you too. And she is my favorite topic. And I could talk for about 8 hours, but I'll try to keep it to 2 or 3. Right? Well, my mom raised me to be a reader, and one of my favorite novels is Little Big Man by Thomas Berger. And it's kind of a rare work that I've read. It seems to pack everything into it. All the joys and sorrows, all the ups and downs, all the ridiculous things that happen in your life, and all the random tragedy stuff that happens too. And the story's about Jack Crabb. He lived to be 121 years old. And Danielle only lived to be 43, but she packed all that in too, just like all of us will. And you know, it wasn't supposed to be like this. I used to tease Danielle. I'm 11 years older than her. And I used to say, someday, honey, you're going to be pushing me in a wheelchair and changing my Depends and wiping my nose, instead of the other way around. But because she would have been just as beautiful as an old lady as she was now. I always pictured her, you know, with long silver hair like Emmylou Harris. You know, she's the one who got prettier as she got older. I think Danielle would have been the same way. But in a way, I'm glad she's not here to have to deal with, you know, this. That, you know, it's my burden to bear. It's our burden. And you know, if you're in a lifelong partnership with someone, you'll be here too someday, and so it's just part of the deal. Unless you go in a car crash together, which would be kind of horribly beautiful, I think. But I have to take comfort in what she leaves me, which is love. When I was in college, John Lennon, right before he was murdered, he gave this really long, may have been a 2-issue interview in Playboy magazine. And I bought a copy for the article. And in the piece, he talked about how much he loved his wife. And I don't recall exactly what he said, but it was just so deep and it was so deeply felt. I was never a fan of Yoko Ono, honestly. But I'd never heard one person speak so beautifully about another, not even any of the great songs he wrote. And it made a real impression on me. And like wow, love can be like that, you know. And then sometime when I was still in college, a couple of years maybe, I stayed up late one night in the dorm and I watched Wuthering Heights. It's an old 1939 MGM black and white movie with Laurence Olivier and Meryl Oberon. And if you don't know it, it's the story of Kathy and Heathcliff. And they love each other so much, they're insane. And they drive each other insane. And Heathcliff says the wildest things to her. One that I always remember, she marries another man kind of to spite him. And she says, he can love you as much as he can for his whole life. And he will never love you as much as I do in one day. And that's a crazy thing to say, but when I went to bed that night, I was dating a girl who later became my first wife, and I thought, well, I wish I loved her that much, but that's... And then I just thought, you know, this was written by some teenage girl in the 1800s who was never kissed. There's no way this is just crazy. But I stand right here in front of you and tell you it is possible. It does happen, because that's what we have. That's what we still have. And I just want to tell you how that came to be. When I was working at the library, it was October 1999, I was a storyteller, which is, we did programs for children and their families that came to the library, and there's branches, and there were 4 of us went out to different branches and did story programs, sharing literacy and stuff. And at each branch, there's a person called a youth specialist, and this person kind of handled the children's things at their library, at their location. So one day, my fellow storyteller, Charlie, he asked me, he said, hey, have you met Long Island Lolita? And I said, who? And he said, well, her name's Danielle. And he told me she's the new youth specialist at the Dr. Phillips branch, and she had just got married, and she'd been to Morocco, and she married a Moroccan guy, and she graduated from Stony Brook, and blah, blah, blah. These people came and went, every couple of months we were getting new, and I didn't think much about it. And well, that next Monday morning, I was sitting at the desk at the front, in the public part of the library, and our assistant manager, McGee, who is a lady, by the way, came walking up to the desk with this really tall brunette in a blue dress. And she introduced us, and I guess we shook hands, I don't remember. And she probably said her usual greeting, which sounds like this: "Hi, how are you?" And maybe I answered, I don't know, but McGee started showing her some stuff on the desk, and I took that opportunity to, check her out. I started at her feet, long legs, great figure, beautiful lips and brown eyes and brown hair that came down to her collarbone. And I thought, no wonder Charlie went on and on about her. He just left out the part that she was going to be the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. So they walked off somewhere else, and I started breathing again. And I grabbed a schedule book, because every new youth specialist spent a morning with each of us 4 storytellers, learning how we did things, and shadowing as part of their training. And I spent a couple of weeks down at the main branch where we were located. So I grabbed a schedule book and looked in there, and there she was. There was her name with mine on Wednesday, which is the best day, because not only do a morning program, you do an afternoon one after school. So that meant she had to stay with me all day and go to lunch, and we'd be out all day. And so I kind of shut the book and walked off, but inside I was going, yes. So that first day, as soon as she got in I had a blue Chevy van at the time, she got in it, and we started talking, and we never shut up the whole day. We blah, blah, blah. We just hit it off and started talking about all the things we liked. She told me how she came to Florida on the Disney College program in 1996, and she loved the sunshine so much, she said she was never going to move back to gloomy old Long Island again. And so she just stayed here, got a job. She worked at a bank and a title company and A.G. Edwards, and then she got this job at the library. And she just got married, and she was very interested that I used to be a park ranger in the National Park Service, and that she liked nature, and I did too. We liked hiking and camping and birds. We were both interested in birds. And she liked that I played my guitar, and she couldn't wait to hear me play for the kids and stuff. And she was interested in mummies and Egyptology. She was just the most interesting person, just like, wow. She had, just back and forth, we just kept on and on. And she was working on her elementary education degree at Rollins, one class at a time. And so we had all this in common. We even found out we had the same favorite monkey, Peter Tork. So that day we had lunch after the first program. We had lunch at a place called Downtown Browns in Winter Garden. And I had to keep reminding myself to eat, go ahead and eat, because there she was right across from me now, and I was getting the full force of her beauty and her charm, and I had to oh yeah, I gotta eat too. And then I was also aware of other men in the restaurant, checking her out, and I thought, they're gonna assume she's with me. So I liked that, and I've always liked that. I liked that from then on. Tom here was saying how he told me how he used to like to watch men check Danielle out when she and I would walk through the crowds at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. And I liked that too, because I knew what they were thinking. In fact, Davey Schweitzer here asked me straight up one time, he said, what is that chick doing with you? He probably said beautiful woman, no idea. And I know all my guy friends had a crush on her. I could tell by the dumb look on their faces when she would give them a hug. Oh, she's hugging me. Well, she's sweet like that, and I'll let go. That stuff, just feeds my ego, right? Well, Danielle later referred to that lunch I was talking about as our first date. And if it had been a first date, it would have been the perfect first date, because we just fired on all levels. And I hated to see that day end. And I must have still been thinking about her when I got home to my own wife. Because I pushed through some old National Geographics, and I found one that had a cover story about mummies that they'd found in the Andes. And I brought it into her the next day, and I said, here, I thought you might want to read this. And she looked at the magazine and me like I was handing her a dead cat or something. she was kind of, and she said, thank you. And she told me later, the thing was she was so shocked that I had been listening to her, that she said she fell in love with me right then. I didn't know any of this, of course. I just thought, okay. Well, that whole next couple of weeks she was at the main library, I would sidle up to her and try to, talk to her and stuff. And she would move away, she'd grab up her stuff, okay, and she'd walk off. I thought she was being a good worker because, when you're new, they got their eye on you. And, she's not going to be comfortable hanging out like the rest of us. And if there was ever a job where you hang out 85% of the time, it's being a storyteller in Orange County. These guys know. But she told me later it was because she was so attracted to me, and she'd just gotten married like 4 weeks ago. She felt so ashamed and confused and embarrassed that she thought, why this guy? Why now? Why? She just run away from it. She stayed away from it. So I didn't see her again for a couple of months, and I saw her in December. I remember this because I was doing a nighttime program at another branch, and there she was when I walked in. I was like, oh, wow, what a nice surprise. And she said later, she told me she convinced her manager that she needed to see a night program because they're so different from a day program. So she was able to come over there. She just wanted to see me again. And this was December 1999. If you remember, the world was going to end that year on New Year's. But a lady there invited us to her New Year's Eve party. So I made sure my wife and I went. Danielle didn't show for that. I invited her to my dog's birthday party. She and her husband, they didn't show for that. So I didn't see her for a while. Now, well, let me make it clear. She obviously had devious designs on me at the time. But I was oblivious. I was married. She was a newlywed. She was just a new, attractive, friendly person at work, and that was it. I enjoyed being around her company. We all did. But she finally showed up at my birthday party when I turned 39. My birthday's in May. She came without her husband, and while at the party, I got McGee to take what would be our first picture together, and then I was holding her hand. I've been celebrating a little bit, so I was holding her hands, and I said, does your husband tell you every day how beautiful you are? And she said, no. And this was like a punch in the face. It really surprised me because that's what I would have done, And so I looked at her hand, and she didn't have a ring on, and it kind of, a light went off, and I said, oh, I'm sorry. And she says I ran away. And then she started talking to McGee, and that's how we found out that her husband had left her. And the next time we went to lunch, when I was at her branch, she spilled her guts to me, and I didn't tell her my own marriage was headed down the tubes at the time. She just seemed to want a sympathetic ear, And so soon after that, on Father's Day weekend, I was out on my can and staying at my dad's house in the guest room. And that Friday, I accepted an invitation from some of our lady friends at work to go dancing. And when I went over to our friend Mary Ann's apartment, Danielle was there with her, and I told them, my wife and I are separated, and it's for good this time. And Danielle said that, she put on a solemn face and offered condolences, but she said inside she's thrilled and she couldn't believe what she was hearing. So we were at the Independent Bar, I think, downtown, and Mary Ann, she kind of nudged me and said, hey, now you're a free agent, maybe you and Danielle could get together. And I looked down the bar, and the bartender's flirting with her, and she's laughing, and so pretty and tall, and I said, yeah, right. But that very next Wednesday, I was doing a program at her library, and it was her day off, so I was a little disappointed that she wasn't going to be there. But here she comes in, wearing little white shorts and kind of a low-cut top, and I had never seen that much of her before. And so she came right over to me while I was setting my stuff up, and she gave me her phone number, and she said, hey, if you ever want to just talk, give me a call. And I watched her walk through the glass doors out to the park. I know I had this TV face on, like, I know I did. For a guy, it would be like Salma Hayek giving you her phone number. You wouldn't know what to do. Well, so I looked down at that scrap of paper in my hands, and the butterflies just exploded in my stomach. And because you see, I was not going to ask her out. She was way out of my league, I thought. She's tall. She's 2 inches taller than me. A lot of women don't like a shorter guy. I knew her husband was taller than her, so I thought, there's that. Then there's the other thing is that I always went out with cute girls, okay? And Danielle was not cute. Danielle was swimsuit issue, supermodel, beautiful. And there's a difference. I used to tell her, I said, honey, you're not cute. You know, you're beautiful. And so I wouldn't have asked her out, and she sensed that. She kind of picked up on that. She may have done something that Friday night, I just, didn't catch it. But by her giving me her phone number, she changed her whole perception that I had of her. And she changed my perception of myself, you see? And that wasn't the last time she did that. And, Charlie and I were the only men in our department. We were surrounded by women down there at the library. And there was an ongoing debate between us all the time about which of us was cock of the walk at that particular moment.
Well, that week, Charlie, it was me.
But I played it cool. I didn't call her right away. And a couple nights later, a bunch of us went out after work. And I made sure I sidled up next to her and sat with her. And my heart was thumping louder than a big bass drum, to quote one of my favorite songs. And everyone drifted away one by one until it was just us there together. And she said, you want to go to my place and get something to eat? And sure. And I don't remember if we ate anything, but I know that was the first night I kissed her. And the next night, too. And we shared all of our troubles. It was kind of a misery loves company thing there in some ways at first. And we didn't want that to base our relationship on that. So we decided to cool it. And after we'd gone out a bit, we said, we should go out with other people. That's a good idea. So we did that, and guess who had more dates? Guess who started getting jealous about that? So she was smart enough to know that I've been with the same person for 19 years. I needed some time to be stupid and do some stupid stuff. And I would go out with other women and say, oh, she's fun and pretty, but she's not Danielle. Those lips, they just fit perfectly with mine. It was her. So on her first birthday I was with her, it was February 7th that next year. I took her horseback riding, and we got there a little early, and we sat on a hillside in a church parking lot, and she just looked right at me and she said, I love you. And if you've ever been the first person who says that, that's a scary thing to do. That's a scary step to take. But she was just brave like that. She was just a brave person. And I don't think I said it back to her. But I probably gave her another kiss or something. But sometimes she would look at me with such adoration and love. The intensity of it was frightening. But I think probably a week later was Valentine's. I probably said it then. I know I have a card that I gave her from then. I wrote, I love you in there. At least I wrote it. But I know I said it soon enough. Because once I gave myself over to her, once I let myself go and surrendered to what she was trying to give me, that's when I understood what John Lennon was talking about. And what Kathy and Heathcliff had for each other. We were nuts for each other. I was just drowning in it after that. And from then on, it was me and her. Our feelings for one another grew and grew. The more time we spent together, of course. You know that old song, I love you more today than yesterday. Well, that is very true, and it's still going on right now. Even though she's not here physically, I love her more than I did yesterday. That's an amazing thing about love. And by the way, our celebrity mashup name is Rochelle. Well, after some time, we had a baby talk. Danielle sat me down and said, I want to have a baby someday, and I want to have it with you, and if you don't want to have it with me, you tell me, because I'm going to find somebody who does. So I thought she was nuts. I thought, we work with kids all day. We got to go home and watch the Disney Channel, too. But, when you really love somebody, you just want them to be happy. And so I took maybe 2 days and said, of course, I want to have a baby with you. I want to make you happy. I want to be happy with you. And she just threw her arms around my neck. And then we quit the library in May of 2004, and we went on this huge road trip, 3 months around the United States. We put 14,000 miles on my van. And at the end of that trip, I knew we were meant to stay together forever, because my dad always said, if you want to get to know somebody, go on vacation with them. Okay? Well, we spent 3 months about this far apart for the most time. We didn't kill each other, and I knew we were meant to stay together. She already knew it, but I had to have That was my litmus test. And then something happened a couple months later that was just a stroke of insight for me. I went to my class reunion. I think it was my 25th high school class reunion. And one of my dear friends from high school is a Methodist minister. And she sent me a letter after the reunion and said, I hope you don't mind I used you in a sermon. And she sent me a copy of the sermon. And then when I showed up in this text, it said, I saw my old friend Richard, and he's divorced, and he was drinking beer, which is, I guess, is a thing when you're a preacher. And just basically, he was a lost soul, poor thing. And I don't mind all that, but I just thought, wait a minute, she met Danielle. She was down here, and she spent some time with Danielle. Didn't she see how happy I am? And then it kind of hit me, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. I'm not looking back on it now that she's gone. I knew it then. And I couldn't wait to tell her that day. She was doing an internship at Cayley Elementary, I remember. And I couldn't wait to tell her. She said, you know what? You've made me the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. And I told her that often. I made sure I told her that all the time. We had a golden time. Not that my life was misery before, by any means, but I didn't know how happy it could be until I was with Danielle. And, sometimes I would just pinch myself. Here I was coming home after working, a couple of hours at a school with some kids, and I got paid more than I got paid for a whole day at the library, and I was going to have lunch with my dog, and my wife was going to come home, and she's doing what she loved, and, we're just happy and in love. Thank you, Ginger. She's not here, but thank you. Well, Danielle found and bought a little house and asked me if I would move in and be a roommate because she couldn't really make the note by herself. My brother Kirk says, well, you know what she's doing now? She's trapping you into getting married. And I didn't care. I was already married in my heart. I didn't care. But we didn't really talk about it. We kind of talked about it some. We didn't want to get married. We did kind of put that off. Well, Christmas of 2007, my mother called and spoke to Danielle on the phone. And Danielle kind of laughed and she said, no. And she said, your mother wants to speak to you. So she gave me the phone. And my mom didn't say hello. She didn't say Merry Christmas. She said, why didn't you get that girl a ring? What's wrong with you? What are you waiting on? And so, Mom, you remember that? And I hung up the phone and I said, Danielle, were you expecting a ring? And she kind of said, well, one of our first rules was to always tell each other what we wanted, because neither one of us can read minds, and if that's not a rule in your family, it should be. She didn't tell me that. So I said, well, hey, I'll fix this. I will fix this. So I got a ring, and I thought Valentine's Day would be a good day to propose. And I used a little joke thing that one of my friends from high school, Lee Ellen, told me to do. I wrapped the ring in Christmas paper, stuck it in the cushion of the couch, and when we exchanged gifts, I acted like it was poking me and said, oh, what's this? And look, this has been in here since Christmas Day. I gave it to her. And she opened it up. She started crying. I got it on my knee like you're supposed to, and she said, yes, of course. So thank you, Mom. So that summer we ran away to Colorado and got married by Mountain Lake and started in to work on having a baby. And our life together was as beautiful as any could be. I mean, of course, we had disagreements. I can think of about 5 fights in 15 years, and I only remember what 3 of them were about, and they were the same thing. It was me making plans and not telling her. But I learned that she was always right, and I was always wrong. And I just say that half jokingly. Danielle was so smart, and she was so practical, and had such good common sense. She gave me so much good advice in running my little musical business that I have, that I started running everything by her. I'd say, what do you think of this? What should I do? And she would tell me. And she was always right. She taught me to empathize with other people. Sometimes I'd want to be mad at someone. She'd say, oh, they may have had a bad deal with their boss today, or maybe their home life isn't so great. And I would have to say, oh, honey, you're right. Okay. So she not only taught her students, she taught other people as well. She taught her friend Joe to think about the food he eats and where it comes from. I know she taught Carrie, Lee read her letter earlier, she taught her the word kiva, K-I-V-A, is an actual word, and that therefore she was crushed yet again at Rose's friends. And she taught Mary Ann and me and Kirk and Joe not to be scared of death, because she did it right. She did it so gracefully and peacefully and beautifully. like she did everything. That I don't fear my own passing. I don't fear any of yours. I'm not scared. That doesn't bother me. It's not going to bother me. And she was so curious, you know. That was one of the things I loved about her so much. But not a week went by and she didn't say, "Listen to this." And she'd tell me something she'd read or heard on NPR or something, you know. And just because she had 2 months off in summer, she didn't stop being a teacher. We didn't take resort vacations and lay by the pool and sip drinks and get massages at the spa. No, we're at national parks, camping, hiking, going to the ranger programs. And she would send her students postcards, even when they weren't in her class anymore, right, Lindsay? Lindsay shared some postcards that she wrote to her, and one of them said, "These giant redwoods will live to be, 2,000 years old and grow 200 feet. And I remember saying, "Honey, you're on vacation. You don't have to teach Lindsay that." But that was just the way she was. We went to Mesa Verde, and that fall her kids got a unit on ancient Pueblo dwellings. We went to Sequoia National Park, and that school year her kids learned all about John Muir, who was one of Danielle's heroes. Right? And our home life was amazing too. We said "I love you" all the time. A slow day, 5 to 15 times. An average day, 30 to 50. After that, a good day, 200. I don't know. Danielle made love the theme of every day, every song that came on. You know that NPR show called All Things Considered has that trumpet intro. Ba, 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 ba. When it would come on, she would sing "Love, Love, Love, Love" to me. And she wasn't a very good singer. She was always flat. She would sing something off key, a little warbly, and then she'd look at me and say, "Was that good?" And I would just look at her and say, "You're so pretty." Our pet name for each other was just the word love. The basic, unfiltered essence of what we had, love. It's just what we called each other. I remember one time in New Orleans, the group of us were at a restaurant or somewhere, and she went to the bathroom, and I watched her go around the corner, and then I turned back, and Marianne was smiling at me, and I said, "Well, I can't take my eyes off her. She's so pretty." And she said, "You guys have been together like 5 years. I hope I'm with somebody someday who says that about me after that long." I would say crazy things. We both would, just like Kathy and Heathcliff did. I used to tell her, "I've seen the Grand Canyon, I've seen the paintings at the Louvre, I've seen the Rocky Mountains, but none of them are as pretty as you." And I found a card she wrote me. It said, "You make every day better than the last." So, our friend Kelly called it just a ridiculous amount of love. And it was. But when you mean those things, it's easy to say them. It is. We call each other love of our life, love of my life, nothing could be truer. And our friend Joe he told someone recently that it's kind of cliche, but Danielle and I were soulmates. And that's true. There's a moment in Wuthering Heights when Kathy realizes how intertwined she and Heathcliff's souls have become, and she kind of sits up and she says, "I am Heathcliff." And you might think she slipped her lid, but I know exactly what she meant. Gratefully so. I could go on and on about Danielle and what she means to me, and I know most of you could say something about the way she touched your life, but there's one little thing that kind of, to me, sums up her whole spirit. When we were first getting to know each other, I told her, I came from a broken home. My parents were divorced when I was little. They remarried, so I had step-parents too. And usually that elicits some kind of sympathy from someone who hears it, and maybe that's what I was looking for, but not Danielle. Without missing a beat, she said, "You are so lucky. You have 4 parents who love you instead of just 2. And no one in my life has ever looked at it that way. And I think that just sums up her whole thing. That's her. She just thought that way. That's just the way she was. She was perfect. Well, she had one little, in her left eye, an iris, there was a little piece that was darker than the rest. I called it her chocolate chip, so there was that. Otherwise. Well, you may know we spent 4 years trying to have a baby after we got married, and it wasn't going to happen. And then she found that lump in her breast on May 31st, 2012. And you know that I was talking about how brave she was, telling me she loved me first and giving me her phone number first. All that bravery, that strength she had, that fierce determination had to come to the fore then. You know, because she's from New York, and those people are known for not backing down in a confrontation. She was no different. The first 9 months, she handled it all herself, and I was just her loyal support. But when the cancer moved into her brain, it took away her sight and her ability to walk and drive and read and speak. I had to do all those things for her, and I did the best I could, but she still did all the fighting. That was all her. You know, I was just there to help her. In March of this year, I had her in her wheelchair, and we were getting ready to cross the street, and just all of a sudden she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to walk. You're going to see. I'm going to show you." And it wasn't going to happen. But that "I'm going to show you," I went and wrote it down because I thought that's her. That's just the way she thinks. And, you know, I don't buy it that she lost some kind of battle to cancer, because, you know, now everything's put in perspective. It is for me. Little things don't bother me anymore, and I hope maybe you catch something out of that too. And when you get the news that you've got cancer, remember Danielle and say, "I'm going to show you." Because that's what she did. And that way she wins. So I live in a perpetual state now of what now? You know, I can't imagine being with someone else, although I know Danielle would encourage me to, you know, ask somebody out. I just know how she was. She would say, "I want you to be with Shelley, or Mary Ann, or Sonny Abata." If you're from out of town, Sonny Abata is a local news anchor. And Shelley and Danielle concocted an imaginary affair between us. But I can't even fathom such a thing, so that's not on my radar. You know, thank goodness I have Molly, the dog. She makes me get up every morning to take care of her. My sense of humor seems to be intact. It needs warming up a lot of days. But I have music. Has always been salvation and comfort for me, for my soul. So I have that. But I also have you guys. Like Tom was saying, I got to lean on you now. Your love and friendship means so much to both of us, and we're so blessed with friends. We have friends that we've met through Daniel's teaching and come to see me play music for their kids, and we have friends here from Disney days and library days and college and high school. You know, I'm still friends with my very first friend that I was friends with. Our parents threw us together when we were in diapers before our brothers came along. So friends are very important, and I will lean on you for that. But none of you are Danielle. None of you have her legs, anyway. So I have to go to the well of love that we have for each other, that I was talking about before. Some wise men once sang, "All you need is love. Love is all you need. Love is all there is." It's all that matters. And that's what I have. That's what we have together. And I say have in present tense because that didn't go anywhere. It's still in my heart. It's in our home. It surrounds me and holds me. And it's like Michael was saying, I feel Danielle standing right beside me. She puts her left arm around this shoulder and puts her right arm across my chest. She stands right here beside me. And we had 15 years of jump off a cliff with me love. And you know, how lucky is that? How lucky we are. I just look at her with that. She has that Mona Lisa smile. Makes you wonder what she's thinking. I know, but I can't tell you. It's between us. But no, sweetie, I always told you exactly what I felt. And I was lucky enough to get to say it to her before she was gone. But I want to say some things again in front of our friends so they can hear it too. I just want to thank you for loving me the way you do. Thank you for showing me what real love really is. Thank you for knowing what you wanted and what I needed, and having the wisdom and patience to give me the time to figure it out myself. Thank you for always being there for me, You're always making me feel better, for believing in me, for making everything right, for making me a better person. I will always seek your guidance, sweetie. I'll always ask you what I should do next. I'll always hear your voice in my head saying, "Love, slow down when you talk to children." Or she'll say, "Is that helpful or hurtful?" I even hear her say, "Wash that apple before you eat it." She still takes care of me, even though she's not here. I will see you every day, and I will see you in my dreams. When birds come to the feeder and children laugh. Today I was walking Molly in the park, the Greenwood Wetland Park, and under the trees in the shadows there was a big barred owl. She loved owls, sitting on a cypress knee. And I looked and I thought, oh, I hope Danielle can see this. And when I turned and looked back again, it was gone. Was that you? I think it was her. Thank you for the best 15 years of my life. I had to wait 39 years to meet her, but I would wait 39 more to do it all again. All of it, even the bad part. Thank you for being my love of my life. My heart soars like a hawk, and so does yours. And they will spiral around each other into the sky forever. I love you. And I want to thank you guys too. I don't know who all did what. A lot of stuff was done anonymously, so I don't know who did what, but thank you. You gave us money, you gave your time, you cleaned up our house, you mowed our yard, brought us food. You wrote cards and letters to Danielle. When she couldn't read them, I read them to her. If all you did was spare her a sweet thought and send it her way, that counts too. It all counts. I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Jeff. He organized a full-on benefit at Will's Pub once. And the Hatchers, 2 rolling poker games or something. I don't even know what it was. Thank you for that. But especially Eileen. She organized 2 full-on musical benefits at the Rep. She organized laundry and food. I just can't thank you guys enough. And Viva for setting up that funding site. That you guys saved us. You saved our butts. Really, thank you. All right, just a couple more things. Our friend Banks made a short film that's going to be shown on these screens here. And there's 3 songs in it. The first one is my favorite Lennon McCartney tune, and the next one is our song. I picked up a Dean Martin best of CD one time, and sometimes you need one of those old crooners to set a certain mood. And we were listening to it, and this song we'd never heard came on. Love me, my love. And we both looked at each other and said, that's our song. It's a song about us. Love me, my love. And the last song is Better Together, a song by Jack Johnson. Daniel picked that to be our first dance together when our friends forced us into having a wedding party after that. All right. And then our friend Davey's going to sing a song called She Is My Everything. It's a song I used to sing to Danielle, but there's no way I can get through it, so Davey's going to do the honors for me today. I used to sing it to her when she was in the hospital. When she came out of that coma, after she had a hemorrhage on her brain, she couldn't put sentences together. She couldn't put words together to make a sentence, but she could sing anything. Music is just so magical. She could sing whole songs, and she would sing her answers. Thank you for giving me a shot. She would say to the nurses. Some of our nurses are here. They know how she was. I think they like her too. So Davey's going to say, it's not a sad song. It's kind of got a little kooky stuff in it, which was always for us was a good mix with the love. And then our friend Eddie's going to say a few words at the end. But Kurt, if you would get the lights, please, sir.